My name is Cassandra, and at 32 years old, I thought I had my life perfectly organized. I owned a beautiful 3-bedroom house, had a successful career as a software developer, and enjoyed my independence. Then my sister Rebecca showed up at my doorstep with her 2 children, claiming her husband had abandoned them. My heart broke for them, so I welcomed them in. If only I had seen the warning signs from the beginning. Before I continue my story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories of family betrayal and unexpected redemption. I have always been the responsible one in my family. While other kids were hanging out at the mall, I was studying or working part-time jobs. That discipline helped me graduate top of my class in computer science and land a great job at a tech company. By 30, I had saved enough for a down payment on my dream home in a quiet suburb. It was a 3-bedroom house with a beautiful backyard and a dedicated home office where I could work remotely 3 days a week. I had built everything from scratch and was proud of my achievements. My sister Rebecca couldn't be more different. 2 years younger than me, she has always been the free spirit, jumping from one interest to another, one relationship to the next. While I planned and saved, she lived in the moment. In high school, our parents were constantly bailing her out of trouble while praising me for staying on track. This created a strange dynamic between us. We weren't close, but we weren't enemies either. Just 2 very different people who happened to share parents and childhood memories. After college, we drifted further apart. I focused on my career while Rebecca married young to her high school boyfriend, Tom. They had 2 children quickly, Lucas and Lily. I would see them at major family events like Christmas or our parents' anniversary, but that was about it. I sent birthday and Christmas gifts to the kids, but otherwise we existed in separate worlds. Our parents moved to Arizona for retirement 3 years ago, making family gatherings even less frequent. So when my phone rang at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday and I saw Rebecca's name, I was surprised. We hadn't spoken in nearly 6 months, not since our parents' 40th wedding anniversary. "Cass, I need help," she said, her voice breaking. "Tom and I are getting divorced. He was having an affair with his coworker for months. He just moved out and froze our joint accounts. The kids and I have nowhere to go." Her sobs sounded desperate and genuine. I could hear the children crying in the background. My heart immediately went out to them despite our distant relationship. "Where are you now?" I asked. "We're staying at a motel, but I only have enough money for 2 more nights," she explained. "I know we haven't been close, but you're the only one I can turn to. Mom and Dad are too far away and all my friends have tiny apartments." I hesitated. My organized, peaceful life would certainly be disrupted, but they were family and it sounded like a genuine emergency. "You can stay with me temporarily," I said, emphasizing the word temporarily. "Just until you get back on your feet. 2 weeks max, okay? I work from home most days and need my space and quiet." "Oh, thank you," she exclaimed. "You're a lifesaver, Cass. We won't be any trouble, I promise. 2 weeks is perfect. I just need time to find a job and a place of our own." The next day, Rebecca arrived with the children, and what seemed like their entire household packed into her sedan. The amount of luggage suggested a much longer stay than 2 weeks, but I brushed aside my concerns. 7-year-old Lucas and 5-year-old Lily were polite and sweet, giving me tight hugs and calling me Aunt Cassandra with perfect manners. They seemed tired and confused, which was understandable given the upheaval in their young lives. That first night went smoothly. I ordered pizza and we sat around my dining table making casual conversation. Rebecca shared some details about the divorce, painting Tom as a villain who had abandoned his family for a younger woman. The children were quiet during this conversation, focused on their pizza. Looking at their innocent faces, I felt a surge of protectiveness. "You'll stay in the guest bedroom," I told Rebecca. "I'll set up my home office as a temporary bedroom for the kids." "That's so generous of you," Rebecca said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "I can't tell you how much this means to us." The next day, I helped them settle in. I moved my desk and computer equipment to a corner of my bedroom to create space for 2 small beds in my office. I took time off work to take them shopping for essentials they needed. Rebecca seemed overwhelmed with gratitude, repeatedly saying she would pay me back someday. I spent over $400 on clothes, toiletries, and school supplies for the kids, waving away her promises of repayment. They were family after all. During that shopping trip, I noticed a few small things that seemed off. Rebecca would pick up expensive brand name items rather than the more affordable options. When I suggested the store brand cereal, she insisted the children only ate a certain premium brand. She added several items for herself to the cart as well, including a surprisingly expensive face cream. I paid without comment, assuming these small comforts might help them through a difficult time. Back at home, I was surprised to find Rebecca had moved her things into my master bedroom rather than the guest room. "Hope you don't mind," she said when I questioned her. "The guest bed is too small for me, and I need space to organize all our stuff. Your room has that big walk-in closet. The kids and I can take your room and you can use the guest room. It's just temporary, right?" Before I could protest, Lily wrapped her arms around my legs. "Please, Aunt Cassandra, Mommy needs a nice room because she's so sad about Daddy." How could I say no to that? I reluctantly moved my belongings to the significantly smaller guest room, telling myself it was just for 2 weeks. That night, Rebecca made a few comments about my home decor being a bit outdated and my kitchen not very well equipped for a family. I dismissed these remarks as stress talking. By the end of the first week, I had rearranged my work schedule to accommodate having a family in my home. I normally worked from home Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, going into the office Tuesday and Thursday. My company was flexible, but I prided myself on my productivity and professionalism. I cleared a space in the living room where I could work while keeping an eye on the children if needed, though. Rebecca had assured me she would handle all childcare while job hunting. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags from the beginning. But family loyalty and genuine concern for those children clouded my judgment. I had no idea how quickly my act of kindness would turn into a nightmare. 2 weeks passed, then 3, and Rebecca showed no signs of preparing to leave. She had stopped mentioning looking for apartments, and whenever I subtly brought up the topic, she would change the subject or suddenly need to attend to one of the children. My once peaceful home had transformed into a chaotic space, filled with toys, noise, and constant activity. My work began to suffer. Conference calls were interrupted by screaming children. Deadlines became difficult to meet as my concentration was constantly broken. Even with noise-canceling headphones, the disruptions were impossible to ignore. On a Thursday morning, as I prepared to leave for the office, Rebecca approached me with an urgent expression. "Cass, I hate to ask this, but I just got called for a job interview today at 11. It's perfect, great pay, benefits, everything we need. Could you possibly work from home today and watch the kids? It would just be for a few hours." I had an important meeting that afternoon, but the hope of Rebecca finding employment and moving toward independence seemed worth the sacrifice. "I'll see what I can do," I said, already pulling out my phone to email my boss. My manager was understanding, but reminded me about the project deadline that week. I promised to make it work. Rebecca thanked me profusely, rushing to get ready in my former master bathroom. The interview was supposedly at 11. At 4:30, Rebecca finally returned, shopping bags in hand and freshly manicured nails. No explanation for her lateness, just a breezy. The interview went longer than expected, then I had a few errands to run. The children had been difficult all day, fighting and crying as I attempted to work. I had to reschedule my meeting and felt my professional reputation slipping. This became a pattern. Rebecca would have job interviews or apartment viewings that required me to watch the children. She would leave for hours, returning with no updates on her job search, but often with new clothes or salon visits evident. When I questioned her, she would become defensive or change the subject. Gradually, household chores shifted to me as well. At first, it was subtle. Rebecca would start dinner, but then have a migraine and need to lie down, leaving me to finish cooking and serve the children. She would begin laundry but forget to move it to the dryer or fold the clothes. Within a month, I was doing all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry for 4 people while working full-time. "This bathroom isn't very clean," Rebecca commented one evening as I finished washing the dinner dishes she had left in the sink. "The kids need a sanitary environment. You should really use bleach on those surfaces." I bit my tongue, reminding myself they were going through a difficult time. But the criticism continued. My cooking wasn't healthy enough for growing children. My cleaning wasn't thorough enough. The children needed more structure, more activities, more of everything that required my time and money. My home itself began to change without my consent. I returned from work one day to find my living room furniture rearranged. "This flow works better for the kids," Rebecca explained, without apology. My carefully chosen decorative items disappeared, replaced by the children's artwork and toys. When I couldn't find my favorite reading lamp, Rebecca said Lucas had accidentally broken it but didn't think I would mind since it was old anyway. Even my digital space wasn't safe. The Wi-Fi password was changed for the children's safety. My streaming service profiles were taken over with kids' shows. My grocery delivery app now ordered only Rebecca's preferences, and my carefully planned budget was shattered by the increased expenses. Money became another source of tension. Rebecca always forgot her wallet when we went out. She needed to borrow money for various expenses related to the divorce or the children. She promised to pay me back once the divorce settlement came through, but the amounts were never written down or acknowledged again after the money changed hands. The children's behavior also began to change. Initially polite and grateful, they started mimicking their mother's entitled attitude. They entered my bedroom without knocking, used my personal items without permission, and threw tantrums when redirected. Lucas once screamed that it was his house too when I asked him not to jump on the sofa. Lily cried that I was mean when I suggested she pick up her toys from the hallway where they created a tripping hazard. After 6 weeks of this, my patience was wearing thin. I attempted to establish some basic house rules during dinner one evening. "I think we need to clarify some boundaries," I began carefully, "since it seems you'll be staying longer than we initially discussed." Rebecca immediately looked wounded. "Are you saying we're not welcome? Where are we supposed to go, Cass? Do you want your own sister and her children homeless?" "That's not what I'm saying at all." I backpedaled, feeling guilty despite my legitimate concerns. "I just think we need some structure. Maybe a chore chart, some quiet hours for when I'm working, that sort of thing." "You have no idea how hard this is for me," Rebecca said, tears filling her eyes. "I'm a single mother trying to rebuild our lives while dealing with heartbreak. I thought you, of all people, would understand and support us." The children watched this exchange, with wide eyes, Lily's bottom lip trembling. I immediately felt like the villain. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "Of course I support you. I just thought some organization might help us all." Rebecca sniffled dramatically but agreed. "You're right, I'll try harder to keep the kids quiet when you're working. And I'll do better with the housework." For about 3 days, things improved marginally. Rebecca washed dishes after dinner and reminded the children to use their indoor voices when I was on calls. I felt hopeful that we had turned a corner. But by the weekend, everything had reverted. Rebecca invited friends over without asking me, and they stayed until 2 in the morning while I tried to sleep before an early Monday meeting. When I checked my email that weekend, I found a message from a company where Rebecca had supposedly interviewed. I had sent a follow-up note of recommendation trying to help her prospects. Their confused response indicated they had never interviewed Rebecca, nor had any record of her application. The realization hit me hard. She had been lying about looking for work. Those hours away from the house weren't spent on job interviews or apartment hunting. I had become an unpaid nanny and housekeeper while Rebecca enjoyed her freedom. 3 months into what was supposed to be a 2-week stay, my life had become unrecognizable. I was exhausted, depleted, and increasingly resentful. My days started at 5:30 in the morning, the only quiet time I could find to do my actual job. By 6:30, the children would be awake, needing breakfast, and help getting ready for school. Rebecca rarely emerged before 9, claiming she needed rest to deal with the stress. I would rush to get the kids to school, then race to my office or work frantically from my makeshift desk in the corner of the living room. Lunch preparation, picking the children up from school, supervising homework, making dinner, bath time, bedtime stories, the endless cycle of household chores. All of it fell to me while Rebecca was increasingly absent both physically and emotionally. My bedroom had become merely a place to sleep for a few hours before starting again. My personal belongings were scattered or missing entirely. My bathroom was filled with Rebecca's expensive products, my towels perpetually damp from others using them. Privacy was a distant memory. At work, my performance was suffering noticeably. My boss called me in for a meeting where he gently but firmly warned me that my recent work wasn't meeting expectations. Projects were late, my contributions in meetings were distracted, and clients had noticed. I was at risk of losing the promotion I had been working toward for 2 years. That evening, I decided to have a serious conversation with Rebecca. I found her scrolling through social media in my former bedroom, now unrecognizable with her clothes strewn about and my personal touches removed. "Rebecca, we need to talk about this living arrangement," I said firmly. "It's been 3 months. This can't continue indefinitely." She barely looked up from her phone. What's the problem? The kids are happy here. The problem is that this was supposed to be temporary. You're not looking for work or your own place. I've become responsible for everything while you contribute nothing. She put her phone down, then her expression hardening. Wow. I didn't realize you were keeping score. Sorry my family's crisis is such an inconvenience for you. That's not fair, I protested. I've been more than generous, but I can't keep supporting 4 people indefinitely. My work is suffering, my savings are depleted, and I never agreed to this arrangement. So what are you saying? You want to throw us out? Your own family. What kind of person does that make you? Her voice rose dramatically. The children can hear you, you know. Do you want them to know? Their aunt doesn't want them. Stop twisting my words, I said, trying to keep my voice level. This isn't about the children. It's about you taking advantage of me. You promised it would be 2 weeks. You promised you'd look for work. You've broken every promise while I've given everything. You're so selfish, Rebecca spat. You with your perfect job and your perfect house. You have no idea what it's like to be a mother to have your husband betray you. All you care about is your precious career and your clean floors. Some things are more important than money, Cassandra. Family should be more important. Her words stung despite their manipulation. Was I being selfish? Was my discomfort less important than their stability? I left the room confused and guilty, no resolution reached. That night, I researched tenant rights in my state. To my dismay, I discovered that after living in my home for over 30 days, Rebecca had established residency. Legally, I couldn't just ask her to leave immediately. I would need to provide proper notice and potentially go through formal eviction procedures if she refused to leave. The thought of legally evicting my own sister made me sick to my stomach. My financial situation was becoming dire as well. My utilities had doubled, my grocery bill tripled. Small amounts of cash kept disappearing from my wallet. Credit card charges I didn't recognize appeared on my statements. When confronted, Rebecca always had an explanation. The children needed medicine. There was a school fee due, emergency car repairs. But the new clothes salon visits and nights out with friends continued unabated. Through social media, I discovered the truth about Rebecca's absences. While I watched her children, she was shopping, going to restaurants, even dating. One of her friends posted pictures of them at a day spa on the same day Rebecca claimed to have a crucial appointment with her divorce attorney. My friend Andrea noticed the changes in me during our monthly lunch date. You look terrible, she said bluntly. What's going on with you? I broke down and told her everything. The invasion of my home, the financial strain, the emotional manipulation, the complete loss of my personal life and space. You need to get them out, Andrea said firmly. This isn't helping anyone. She's using you, and you're enabling her. Those kids will grow up thinking this behavior is acceptable. But they're family, I protested weakly. Where will they go? That's not your problem, Andrea replied. Rebecca is an adult. She made this mess, and she needs to figure it out. You can help without being destroyed in the process. Set a firm deadline. Offer some financial help to get them started elsewhere if you want, but take back your life. Andrea's words stayed with me for days. I realized she was right. This situation wasn't healthy for anyone, including the children. Rebecca wasn't healing or moving forward because she had no incentive to change. I was becoming increasingly bitter. The children were learning terrible lessons about boundaries and responsibility. I made my decision. I would give Rebecca 30 days' notice along with enough money for a security deposit and first month's rent on an apartment. I would help her find a job and childcare. I would support her transition to independence in every reasonable way. But the current situation had to end. That night, I prepared what I wanted to say. I rehearsed compassionate but firm phrases. I gathered information about affordable apartments in good school districts. I calculated exactly how much financial help I could offer without further damaging my own security. I was nervous but resolved. This was the right thing for everyone. The next evening, I asked Rebecca to talk after the children went to bed. We sat at my dining table, the same place where I had welcomed them into my home 3 months earlier. The contrast between that hopeful beginning and our current reality wasn't lost on me. Rebecca, I've given this a lot of thought, I began calmly. This living arrangement isn't working anymore. I want to help you and the kids transition to your own place. I slid a folder across the table containing apartment listings, job opportunities I'd researched, and a written offer of financial assistance. I'm prepared to help with a security deposit and first month's rent. I've found several apartments in good neighborhoods within the school district. I also have some contacts who are hiring. I want to support you becoming independent again. Rebecca stared at me in silence, her expression unreadable. I continued outlining the 30-day time frame and my willingness to help with the move and getting settled. When I finished, the silence stretched uncomfortably. "Are you done?" she finally asked, her voice eerily calm. "Yes," I replied, relieved she seemed to be taking it rationally. "What do you think? We can go look at these apartments this weekend if you want." Rebecca's calm facade suddenly shattered. She slammed her hand on the table so hard the dishes from dinner rattled. "You ungrateful, selfish bitch!" she screamed. "After everything we've been through, you just want to throw us out like garbage." Her voice echoed through the house, and within seconds I heard the children's footsteps. They appeared in the doorway, confused and frightened by the commotion. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Lily asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Rebecca's demeanor changed instantly. She rushed to the children, gathering them close with trembling hands. "It's okay, babies," she said, her voice breaking. "Aunt Cassandra just told me we have to leave. She doesn't want us here anymore." The children's faces crumpled. Lucas looked at me with hurt and betrayal in his eyes. "But why don't you love us?" Before I could respond, Rebecca continued her performance. "She says we're too much trouble, that we're ruining her perfect life." "That's not what I said at all," I protested, horrified by this manipulation. "Rebecca, don't involve the children in this. We can discuss this reasonably." She ignored me, focusing entirely on the children who were now fully crying. "Go back to bed, sweethearts. Mommy will figure something out. We won't be homeless, I promise." The children shuffled back to their room, casting tearful glances at me over their shoulders. I felt sick at how Rebecca had twisted the situation. Once they were out of earshot, Rebecca's expression changed completely. The vulnerable mother was replaced by something cold and calculating. "You have no idea what you've just done," she said quietly. "Rebecca, this is ridiculous. I'm offering to help you, not abandon you. But this current situation isn't working for anyone." "Not working for you, you mean," she sneered. "It's been working just fine for us." "That's the problem," I said. "You've been taking advantage of me for months. I've been patient. I've been generous. But there have to be limits." Rebecca leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Did you ever wonder why Tom really left me?" The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. "You said he was having an affair." She laughed without humor. "That's what I told everyone. So much easier than the truth. The truth is, he couldn't handle my methods of discipline. He thought I was too hard on the children." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you talking about?" "Children need a firm hand, Cassandra. Sometimes they get bruises. Sometimes they fall downstairs. Accidents happen in every family." My blood ran cold as I processed her implication. "Are you saying you hurt your children?" "I'm saying children are fragile and clumsy, especially when they misbehave." Her smile was terrifying. "But you know what else I learned? Children are very suggestible. They remember what you tell them to remember." She stood up and walked to the children's room, returning with both Lucas and Lily, who looked confused and sleepy. "Lucas, tell Aunt Cassandra what happened when you spilled juice on her laptop last week." The boy looked confused. "But I didn't." Rebecca squeezed his shoulder hard enough to make him wince. "Yes, remember, and tell her what she did." Lucas looked at his mother, then at me, his young face, a mask of confusion and fear. You got really mad. You yelled and you pushed me." I was speechless with shock. No such incident had ever occurred. And Rebecca continued to tell her about the bathroom incident. The little girl clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face. "You said I was too slow and you shook me really hard." "That's enough for now," Rebecca told the children. "Go back to bed." When they left, she turned to me with a triumphant smile. "You see how easy that was? Children will say whatever I tell them to say, and they have the bruises to prove it." She rolled up her sleeve to reveal dark bruises on her upper arm. It's amazing what you can do with makeup. Child services won't know the difference. Neither will the police. My mind raced with panic. You're insane. No one would believe these lies. Really? A single woman with no children versus a struggling mother of two. Their testimony against yours. The courts always favor the mother, Cassandra. Always. She sat back down, suddenly businesslike. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw your eviction request. In fact, you're going to sign over this house to me and the children. That's ridiculous, I sputtered. I would never do that. Then I'll call the police tomorrow and report you for child abuse. I have pictures, witness testimony, and a very convincing story about how you've been mistreating my children for months while I was desperately trying to find us a safe place to live. My head spun with the enormity of her threat. My career, my reputation, possibly even my freedom were at stake. Or she continued, we can make this simple. $50,000. Cash. I take the kids, we leave quietly, and no one ever hears these unfortunate stories. You're blackmailing me, I whispered, the reality of the situation sinking in. I prefer to think of it as compensation for emotional distress, she replied coldly. $50,000 and we're gone forever. No police, no child services, no messy court battle that you'll almost certainly lose. I don't have that kind of money just sitting around, I protested. You have a retirement account. You have savings. You have a house with equity. Figure it out. She stood up. You have 24 hours to get me the money. After that, I make the call. She left me sitting there stunned and terrified. My own sister had just threatened to destroy my life with false accusations of child abuse. I couldn't believe this was happening. I barely slept that night, my mind racing through scenarios each more disastrous than the last. If Rebecca followed through on her threat, would anyone believe me? Would an investigation reveal the truth, or would her manipulations be convincing enough to cause serious damage? Even if eventually exonerated, the mere accusation could destroy my career and reputation. The next morning, Rebecca acted as if nothing had happened. She made breakfast for the children, chatting pleasantly about school activities. But when our eyes met, her message was clear. The clock was ticking. I called in sick to work, unable to focus on anything but this nightmare. I sat in my car in the driveway, paralyzed with fear and indecision. How had my act of kindness led to this? Looking back, I realized this might have been Rebecca's plan all along. Move and establish residency, then either stay indefinitely or extort money from me to leave. As the day wore on, my panic gave way to a strange clarity. I couldn't give in to this blackmail. It wouldn't end with $50,000. Rebecca would keep coming back for more, holding these false accusations over my head forever. But fighting seemed equally impossible given her manipulation of the children and the legal system's biases. I was trapped with no good options and only hours to decide. As I sat in my car contemplating my impossible situation, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from my home security app alerting me to movement in the living room. The familiar notification suddenly triggered a memory that sent a surge of hope through my body. 6 months ago, after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood, I had installed a comprehensive smart home security system. The system included cameras in common areas of the house, motion sensors, and entry logs for doors and windows. All footage was stored in cloud storage for 90 days. My hands trembled as I opened the app on my phone. Could it be possible? Had the system been recording this entire time I navigated to the footage archive and began scanning dates and times? There it was, 3 months of video and audio recordings from my living room, kitchen, entryway, and hallways. The system didn't cover bedrooms or bathrooms for privacy reasons, but the common areas were all documented, including last night's confrontation at the dining table. A wave of relief washed over me so intensely that tears sprang to my eyes. I had evidence. Rebecca's threats, her coaching the children, all of it would be captured in these recordings. I began methodically reviewing footage from key moments. The night she arrived, her excessive luggage, and her immediate takeover of my master bedroom. The many times she left claiming job interviews only to return with shopping bags. Her instructing the children to leave messes for me to clean up. her friends visiting when I wasn't home, laughing about how Rebecca had scored big time with a free place to stay. Most damning of all, I found footage from just 2 days ago. Rebecca on the phone with someone saying, "The plan is working perfectly. She's doing everything for us, paying for everything. I figure I can stretch this out for at least a year, maybe get her to refinance the house to help with my fresh start. If she gets difficult, I have ways to handle her." Then, last night's footage, her explosive reaction, her bringing the children in to lie her explicit blackmail threat. Everything was there clear as day with perfect audio. And this morning, another revelation. The footage showed Rebecca in the bathroom with makeup, carefully creating fake bruises on the children's arms and legs. "Hold still," she told Lucas. "This is just like playing dress-up. Remember what to say if anyone asks you fell down the stairs right. Good boy." I sat in my car watching this footage with a mixture of horror and relief. Rebecca had no idea about the security system. When I first installed it, I hadn't thought to mention it since it was just a normal home safety measure. During their chaotic arrival and the subsequent months, it never came up in conversation. The small, discreet cameras blended into the decor, easy to overlook if you didn't know they were there. This was the evidence I needed, but I knew I had to be strategic about using it. Rebecca was clearly capable of extreme manipulation and might escalate dangerously if confronted directly. I needed to plan carefully. First, I backed up all the footage to multiple secure locations. I created a comprehensive timeline of incidents noting dates, times, and what each recording showed. I organized the most incriminating clips into a single compilation video that clearly demonstrated Rebecca's scam and blackmail attempt. Next, I called my friend Javier, an attorney who specialized in family law. Without revealing names, I explained the situation and asked for advice. "This is serious," he said after hearing the details. "False accusations of child abuse can be devastating even when disproven. The good news is that your evidence sounds solid. The recordings are likely admissible since they're from security cameras in common areas of your own home, where there's no reasonable expectation of privacy." "What should I do?" I asked. "Confront her with the evidence." "Not alone," he cautioned. "This person sounds unstable and potentially dangerous. You need authorities present when you reveal what you know. I'd suggest contacting both the police and Child Protective Services proactively. Show them the evidence first, especially the parts showing her coaching the children and creating fake injuries. That way, if she does make accusations, they'll already know the context." Following Javier's advice, I gathered my evidence and went to the local police station. I spoke with a detective who specialized in family disputes and showed her the key video clips. She was disturbed by what she saw. "This is attempted extortion at minimum," she said. "And what she's doing to those children, making them lie and participate in false accusations, that's a form of abuse in itself." I also met with a representative from Child Protective Services sharing the same evidence. Their primary concern was for Lucas and Lily, who were clearly being manipulated and emotionally abused by their mother. While working with these authorities, I discovered something else. On a hunch, I reached out to Rebecca's ex-husband, Tom. The conversation revealed a completely different story than what Rebecca had told me. "She didn't tell you the truth," Tom said when I called him. "I didn't leave her for another woman. I left because I caught her stealing money from my parents, and when I confronted her, she threatened to tell everyone I abused the kids." Sound familiar? She's done this before, Cassandra. To her previous boss, to a landlord. She creates these situations, then extracts money to go away quietly. "Why didn't you fight for custody of the children?" I asked. "I am fighting," he said wearily. "But Rebecca disappeared with them before the court date. I've been looking everywhere. I didn't know they were with you. She's been ignoring court orders and keeping them from me illegally." This revelation added another dimension to the case. Not only was Rebecca attempting to extort money from me, but she was also violating custody arrangements and keeping the children from their father, who had legal rights to see them. With the police, child services, and now Tom involved, I developed a comprehensive plan. We would confront Rebecca together with authorities present to ensure safety and proper documentation. Tom would be ready to take custody of the children temporarily, while the legal issues with Rebecca were addressed. I gathered all the necessary documents, the security footage, financial records, showing Rebecca's spending of my money, documentation of the original 2-week agreement, and Tom's custody paperwork. I secured my valuable and personal documents in a safe deposit box, just in case Rebecca tried to retaliate by destroying my property. By the time Rebecca's 24-hour ultimatum was nearly up, everything was in place. The authorities would arrive at a designated time hidden from view until needed. Tom would wait nearby, ready to comfort and take care of the children. I had arranged for a locksmith to come immediately afterward to change all the locks. As evening approached, I felt a strange calm replace my earlier panic. Rebecca had chosen the wrong person to victimize. Her elaborate scheme was about to collapse, and she had no idea it was coming. The 24-hour deadline arrived. I sat at my dining table, the same place where Rebecca had made her threats the night before. I had a check on the table in front of me made out for $50,000. It wasn't valid, of course, but Rebecca wouldn't know that immediately. "Time's up," Rebecca announced, walking into the dining room with a smug expression. "Have you made your decision?" "I have," I replied calmly. "I'm going to give you the money." She smiled triumphantly. "Smart choice. You really don't want to see what would happen if you refused." "Before I hand this over," I said, gesturing to the check, "I want to be absolutely clear about what this payment is for. Can you explain it to me one more time?" Rebecca rolled her eyes impatiently. "Is this really necessary? You know what it's for." "Humor me. I want to hear you say it." She sighed dramatically. "Fine. You're paying me $50,000, and in return, I won't tell the police and child services that you've been abusing my children. I won't show them the bruises or have the kids testify about how you hurt them." Satisfied. "Could you say that a bit louder? I don't think I caught all of it," I said, maintaining my composure. Rebecca raised her voice in annoyance. "You're paying me $50,000, so I won't accuse you of child abuse. Are we done now?" "Almost. Could you call the children in here? I want them to demonstrate what you taught them to say." Looking confused, but still confident, Rebecca called the children. They came in looking nervous and uncertain. "Go ahead," Rebecca instructed them. "Tell Aunt Cassandra what she did to you, just like we practiced." Lucas hesitated, then recited robotically. "You pushed me down and hurt my arm when I spilled juice." Lily followed with her rehearsed line. "You shook me really hard in the bathroom and left bruises." "Show her the bruises," Rebecca commanded, and both children rolled up their sleeves to reveal what appeared to be bruises but were actually makeup, as I had seen in the security footage. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That's all I needed to hear." I raised my voice slightly. "You can come in now." The dining room door opened, and Detective Morgan from the police department entered, followed by Miss Taylor from Child Protective Services. Rebecca's face drained of color. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice suddenly shrill. "Who are these people?" "Rebecca Adams," Detective Morgan said formally. "We're here to discuss the threats you've made against your sister and the false statements you've coached these children to make." Rebecca's expression transformed instantly from shock to wounded innocence. "I don't know what you're talking about. These people have witnessed my sister's abuse of my children. Look at their bruises." Miss Taylor approached the children gently. "Hi, Lucas. Hi, Lily. My name is Sarah. I'm here to help you. May I look at those marks on your arms?" Before Rebecca could intervene, Miss Taylor took a sterile wipe from her pocket and gently rubbed it against Lucas's arm. The bruise began to smear, revealing normal skin underneath. "That's theatrical makeup," Miss Taylor stated for the record, "not a bruise." "This is ridiculous," Rebecca sputtered. "Cassandra must have covered the real bruises with makeup to trick you." "We have video evidence that contradicts that claim," Detective Morgan replied calmly. She set up a tablet on the table and played a clip from that morning, clearly showing Rebecca applying the fake bruises while instructing the children what to say. Rebecca's face contorted with rage. "You've been recording us. That's illegal. You can't do that." "Actually, I can," I said. "This is my home, and these are security cameras in common areas. I installed them 6 months ago after a break-in down the street. They've been recording everything since you arrived." Detective Morgan played more clips: Rebecca's phone conversation about her plan to take advantage of me, her explicit blackmail threat from the previous night, her coaching the children to lie. Rebecca lunged for the tablet, but Detective Morgan moved it away smoothly. "That would be destruction of evidence, Miss Adams. I wouldn't advise it." "This is all being taken out of context," Rebecca shouted desperately. "She's manipulating these recordings." The recordings speak for themselves, Detective Morgan replied. We have the original unedited footage as well. Miss Taylor had taken the children to another room during this confrontation. She returned alone. I've separated the children for their protection. They've admitted that their mother told them to lie about being hurt. They're frightened and confused. Rebecca seemed to deflate her schemes, collapsing around her. You have no right to separate me from my children. Actually, we do have that right, when there's evidence of exploitation and emotional abuse, Miss Taylor explained. And there's something else you should know. The front door opened again and Tom walked in. Rebecca's eyes widened in shock. Tom has legal joint custody, Miss Taylor continued. You've been violating court orders by keeping the children from him and missing scheduled custody hearings. Hello, Rebecca, Tom said quietly. It's over. The games, the manipulation, the running, it's done. Rebecca's face contorted with rage. You're all against me. You've always been against me. This isn't about being against you, I said sadly. This is about protecting those children and stopping you from hurting more people. Detective Morgan stepped forward. Rebecca Adams, you're under arrest for attempted extortion filing, false reports, and contributing to the delinquency of minors. You have the right to remain silent. As the detective read Rebecca her rights, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that the nightmare was ending, sadness for what the children had endured, and grief for the sister I thought I knew. Rebecca was handcuffed and led from the house, still shouting accusations and threats. The children would stay with their father pending further investigation and court proceedings. Miss Dane, Taylor assured me they would receive counseling and support to process what had happened. After everyone left, I walked through my eerily quiet house. In just a few hours, it had been transformed from a chaotic battleground back to my private space. Rebecca's belongings would need to be dealt with eventually, but for now, I was simply grateful for the silence. The locksmith arrived to change all the locks and security codes. I cleaned up the dining room where the confrontation had occurred, washing away the emotional residue of what had happened there. Friends came to help me reclaim my space, moving furniture back where it belonged, removing evidence of the 3-month occupation. A week later, I visited Rebecca at the county jail. She sat across from me behind a glass partition, her face hard and unrepentant. I hope you're satisfied, she said by way of greeting. You've ruined everything. You did that yourself, Rebecca, I replied. I only protected myself from your schemes. They'll never make these charges stick, she said with cold confidence. And when I get out, you'll regret this. I have friends. I know people who can make your life very difficult. I didn't respond to the threat. The children are doing well with Tom. They miss you, but they're in therapy now. They're learning what healthy relationships look like. They're my children, she hissed. He's poisoning them against me. They love you, I said honestly. Despite everything. That's what makes this so tragic. You could have been the mother they deserve. Save your pity, she spat. I don't need it. I stood to leave, realizing there was nothing more to say. Rebecca couldn't or wouldn't acknowledge her actions or their consequences. Perhaps she never would. Goodbye, Rebecca. I hope someday you find peace. Her only response was a cold stare as I walked away, leaving behind the sister I had tried to help and the relationship that couldn't be saved. 6 months passed, bringing healing and restoration. My home gradually reclaimed its sense of peace and order. The walls were repainted, furniture rearranged to my preferences, new decorative touches added to replace what had been damaged or lost. Physical restoration was the easy part, emotional recovery took longer. At work, I had been honest with my boss about the family crisis, sharing appropriate details without oversharing. He was surprisingly understanding, and once the situation resolved, my performance quickly returned to its previous excellence. The promotion I had feared losing came through 3 months after Rebecca's departure, bringing new responsibilities and a welcome salary increase. Therapy became an essential part of my healing journey. My therapist helped me process the betrayal trauma and understand that Rebecca's behavior reflected her own issues, not my worth or actions. We worked through my feelings of guilt for not recognizing the manipulations sooner and my conflicted emotions about involving authorities. Gradually, I came to accept that I had made the best choices possible in an impossible situation. Setting and maintaining healthy boundaries became my priority. I installed additional security measures in my home, not out of paranoia, but as a form of self-care. I created clear guidelines for any future house guests, including specific time limits and expectations. Most importantly, I learned to listen to my instincts when something felt wrong rather than dismissing my concerns out of obligation or guilt. Lucas and Lily remained with their father, who proved to be a loving and stable parent. The court awarded him full custody after Rebecca was convicted of extortion and child endangerment. She received a 3-year sentence with eligibility for parole after 18 months. The children received intensive therapy to address the manipulation they had experienced and to develop healthy understanding of truth and family relationships. To my surprise, Tom and I developed a friendly relationship. He would bring the children to visit once a month, proper visits with clear boundaries and expectations. Lucas and Lily were slowly healing, becoming more spontaneous and genuine as the effects of their mother's manipulation faded. They still loved Rebecca and would eventually have supervised visits with her, but they were learning what healthy love looked like in the meantime. "Thank you for what you did," Tom told me during one of these visits. "I know it wasn't easy to stand up to her, especially with the children involved." "I just wish I had seen through it sooner," I admitted. "They wouldn't have been put through so much." "Rebecca is very convincing," he said with the weary knowledge of experience. "She fooled me for years. The important thing is that the cycle is broken now." My parents eventually learned the full story despite my attempts to shield them from the worst details. Their reaction surprised me. Instead of defending Rebecca as the baby of the family, they expressed deep regret for patterns they had enabled throughout her childhood. "We always made excuses for her," my mother admitted during a difficult phone call. "When she took things that weren't hers, when she blamed others for her mistakes. We thought we were protecting her, but we were teaching her she could manipulate her way out of consequences." This acknowledgement helped me understand that Rebecca's behavior hadn't developed in isolation. It was the extreme manifestation of patterns that had been reinforced throughout her life. This didn't excuse her actions, but provided context that helped me process what had happened. Rebecca herself showed little remorse. Her letters from prison were filled with blame and self-justification. I responded briefly and factually to questions about the children, but maintained emotional distance. Perhaps someday she would recognize the harm she had caused and seek genuine change, but I couldn't base my healing on that possibility. The legal consequences provided closure of sorts. Rebecca was ordered to pay restitution for the financial damages she had caused, though I had few expectations of ever receiving it. The conviction ensured there was an official record of what had happened, protecting me from future false accusations. Most importantly, the children were protected and receiving the help they needed. As months passed, I gradually reclaimed not just my space, but my sense of self. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during Rebecca's stay. I resumed hobbies and interests that had been set aside. I even started dating again, more aware than ever of the importance of mutual respect and healthy boundaries in relationships. The experience changed me in profound ways. I became more discerning about who I allowed into my inner circle, but also more compassionate toward those genuinely in need. I volunteered with a domestic violence shelter, helping others recognize and escape manipulation. I learned that generosity doesn't require sacrificing my own well-being, and that true kindness includes appropriate boundaries. One evening, as I enjoyed the peaceful solitude of my restored home, the doorbell rang. On my porch stood my cousin Angela, her eyes red from crying, 2 small children clutching her hands. "Cassandra, I hate to ask this," she began, "but Brad left us and we have nowhere to go. Could we possibly stay with you just for a few days until I figure things out?" 6 months earlier, I would have automatically said yes out of family obligation. Now, I took a deep breath and responded differently. "I'm so sorry you're going through this, Angela. Let's sit down and talk about how I can help you find a good solution. I can offer financial assistance for a hotel while you look for housing, help you research resources for single parents, and support you emotionally through this difficult time." Her face registered surprise, then understanding. "You're not offering your home." "No," I said gently but firmly. "I've learned that's not always the most helpful thing I can offer. But I am offering real support that will help you build independence, rather than temporary dependence." After a moment of consideration, she nodded. "That actually makes sense. I don't want to be a burden, and I need to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet." As we sat down to make concrete plans to help her family, I felt the wisdom of my hard-earned lessons. Family love is important, but it must include respect for boundaries. Helping others doesn't mean sacrificing yourself, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is empower someone rather than enable them. Have you ever had someone take advantage of your kindness? What boundaries did you set afterward? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges and finding strength in difficult situations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is setting healthy boundaries.